This video is brought to you in part by Dodge. Welcome back to the Advantage of Dodge, the official trucks of In-Fisherman.
During the last quarter century, the sport of angling has undergone unprecedented advancement. Thanks to pioneers like Carl Lawrence, who brought us the portable depth finder, Buck Perry with his contributions in structure fishing theory, and Bill Binkelman with advanced live bait methods, the body of knowledge available to all anglers has been greatly expanded. Adding to this foundation, innovations such as back trolling, live bait rigging, lake classification, and fish calendar periods, the Lindner brothers, Al and Ron, and their In-Fisherman Communications Network have shared the results of continuing research with millions of anglers across the country. Let's join Al Lindner and the In-Fisherman crew as they explain the seasonal movements, predator-prey relationships, and the environmental factors that dictate the life cycle of the walleye, and thus share with you the knowledge which will enable you to crack the seasonal code of Stitsostedian vitrium, the walleye in natural lakes.
Hi everyone, I'm Al Lindner, Director of the In-Fisherman Communications Network, and I'm here to talk to you about catching walleyes. Big, beautiful walleyes. Hey, to catch walleyes consistently, first you have to have an understanding of the basic nature of the fish, an understanding of the environment they live in, and then pick the right lures or baits or combinations of both for the situations you're faced with. Now, in advanced walleye systems, we cover this in detail. Hey, it's important that you understand how walleyes have to relate to forage. In certain environments, certain structural pieces will draw walleyes like a magnet because of food sources. Hey, you got to learn to think like a walleye.
In their search for walleyes, most anglers concentrate on locating prime structures like rocky points, sunken islands, weed beds, underwater boulders, and the like. But understanding the underwater geography is only part of the strategy needed to consistently catch walleyes. Walleyes don't eat rocky points, weeds, or sunken islands. They visit such places in search of forage. Understanding how forage, structure, and walleyes are related is the key to a more complete picture and more consistent success. In-Fisherman Dave Sanda and fisheries biologist Dick Sternberg explain.
Oh, that's a big walleye. That's a big walleye. You got the net there? Oh, boy, is that a big fish. Beautiful. Beautiful, big walleye.
That's a dandy.
Look at that.
Not done yet.
Oh, Dick, that's a 10-pound class fish.
That's cool. Nice fish.
You betcha. These are very, very large walleyes.
Look at the belly on that thing.
That is...
The thing's been eaten.
He's obviously been eating really good. Thanks for the invite, by the way. I'm over on the Missouri River Reservoir system with my old friend Dick Sternberg, and I heard he was on some big walleyes, so I invited myself over to catch some of these big fall run walleyes out here. And I'll tell you what, you can't beat a pattern that puts you on lots of fish like that. And Mr. Sternberg is going to be nice enough to share it with you, aren't you, Dick?
You know, the pattern we're fishing right here is really a strong fall pattern, and I've been fishing it for a few years out here. And it involves fishing these rocky, wind-swept points. When you've got the wind blasting into the point, the water becomes riled up, and the plankton gets blown into the point. The minnows and the forage fish move in. The walleyes move in right after them. And what's nice about it is that this is not an early morning situation. You can catch fish any time of the day, as long as the wind is blowing in.
To better understand the predator-prey relationship, it is first necessary to understand some of the factors that determine what a predator will most likely eat. The primary elements are 1, the availability and types of prey, and 2, the locations and behavior of the prey. Walleyes inhabit a great variety of bodies of water, from deep, clear, infertile lakes to shallow, fertile reservoirs. In each system, the prey they feed on largely determines their location. For example, in cold, clear, infertile lakes, The main walleye food base for the larger fish is normally ciscos. Ciscos are a cold water fish which will often suspend throughout the depths in winter, come up shallow in spring and fall, and suspend near the thermocline in midsummer. Following the seasonal movements of ciscos is often the key to catching walleyes in infertile lakes. In moderately fertile lakes where water temps are too warm to support ciscos, yellow perch are often the walleye's main forage. Perch have both seasonal movements and daily movements. Different year classes of perch even inhabit different locations in a given body of water. Young of the year and juvenile perch often relate to shallow, weedy, or rocky areas. This size class preferred by walleyes are most vulnerable in low light conditions, with dawn and dusk being peak feeding times. The walleyes have a different vision advantage during these periods. An apparent exception to this is catching daytime walleyes on wind-swept rocky points, bars, or shorelines. Strong wave action cuts down on the light and stirs up the bottom, dislodging insect larvae and crustaceans. Perch move into these areas, and the walleyes won't be far behind.
Crankbaits.
In shallow, weedy, very fertile lakes, walleye populations are often small unless artificially supported by stocking. In these waters, walleyes compete with and are often dominated by other predators, such as northern pike and largemouth bass. The walleye's food selection will most likely vary with the fish feeding on shad, sheephead, perch, bullheads, and minnows. Because most of their prey will relate to weeds, the walleyes in these lakes will often relate to weeds even though the water may reach above their so-called preferred temperature range. Walleyes, like other predators, often feed on the most easily obtainable prey. Case in point, the late spring, early summer mayfly hatch. Mayflies hatch from muddy bottoms, with millions making their way to the surface. This is easy pickings for walleyes. The walleye, a fish known for relating to sand and rock structure, will often concentrate in muddy areas during this hatch. Another seasonal case, the fall frog migration. As frogs move from the swamps to the soft lake bottom to spend the winter, walleyes often move up to the shallows and meet the frogs as they enter the water each night. Walleyes have been caught in as shallow as 1 foot of water during this period. So, not only are there seasonal movements of their main prey to understand, but also the seasonal migrations of other prey that may become available throughout the season. As the number of available prey options increase, the more complicated the predator-prey relationship becomes. Since there is no exact distinction between lake types, many lakes will support more than one type of forage that walleyes like. For example, ciscos and perch inhabit many of the same bodies of water, but they seldom fill the same niche. In this case, some walleyes in this body of water could be suspended in the middle of the lake with the ciscos, while some inhabit the weeds or rocks with the perch. Walleyes in each area could be active at different times of the day. Man has had a great influence in the walleye's predator-prey relationship. In many bodies of water, smelt have been introduced into the system. In most of the Great Lakes and some reservoirs, smelt are the main staple of their diet, and walleyes are willing to follow them through their seasonal movements. For example, walleyes in Hawaii Reservoir in South Dakota have been found to feed on smelt in waters up to 120 feet deep, even though the water at that depth is far below the walleye's so-called preferred temperature range. Successful trophy hunters know that the walleye's prey has a great influence on the average size of the walleye. In systems where shad, smelt, or stunted ciscos are the main prey of the walleyes will grow much faster and bigger than walleyes that feed solely on prey such as perch or small minnows. As you can see, there's a lot more to catching fish on a consistent basis than simply looking for underwater structure. Remember, the most beautiful structure on the lake won't hold walleyes unless there's forage on it.
He's not done yet. That's a good one there, Dave. That is a good fish. Look at the belly on that fish. You know, that thing's been pigging out on these smelt. You know, it really helps to understand the forage to catch big fish like this.
So you see, The key to a walleye's heart is through his stomach.
Walleye location and activity is definitely determined by where the forage is at, except for 2 times of the year: late pre-spawn and spawn. During this period of time, you can actually still have fish dispersed. There's some main lake spawners that'll use shallow water rocks on reefs and shoreline areas, and a lot of fish go to current areas like in rivers. Hey, when fish get in the rivers during this time of the year, they're condensed in key areas and very, very active. In fact, it's some of the best walleye fishing I ever experienced.
Drop turns to rivulet. Rivulet becomes stream. Winter's icy grip loosens on the frozen river. Melting snow and spring rains then turn rivers into torrents. Rising water and temperatures draw walleyes upstream into pre-spawn staging areas. And perhaps these same natural forces are what lure in-fisherman educators Al Lindner and Tom Newstrom to these exact same locales.
You got one, Tom? Is it a good one? Oh, I had one pop me right under the boat, man. Right under. It's a better fish again. Listen.
Nice fish, pretty fish.
Ooh, come here, Gil. There you go. Ooh, another good one. Now look at that little teeny jig. That's the whole key, man. 16th ounce jig.
How many fish is that today, Al?
Tom, I know we caught 50. We caught at least 50 walleyes. I'm gonna put this one back too. What we're covering today, folks, is a little bit on pre-spawn walleye movements on rivers. Pre-spawn fishing can be some of the fastest fishing you'll ever see on walleyes. And there's a few reasons why. One of the reasons I like fishing rivers early in the year for walleyes is that rivers don't have closed seasons on them in most parts of the country. That's a fact. And they're like, we've got a fishing season in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, but river sections, in most cases, in most of these states, there is an open walleye fishery available, and you can fish pre-spawn fish. And pre-spawn river fishing is the fastest, best walleye bite you're ever going to get. Let me give you some information that'll help you put more walleyes in a boat during the pre-spawn period. During this calendar period, you have more walleyes concentrated in a specific area than any other time of the year. Outside bends like this hold loads of fish. The fish gravitate towards sources of current, like dams or waterfalls. They'll hold off of eddy areas, slack water areas just adjacent to the current like this. These areas of slack water are where most of the biters will be, and this is where you want to concentrate most of your efforts. The peak of the pre-spawn bite is around 40 degrees. Oh, one more area not to overlook is the mouth of feeder creeks or streams where water that's a little bit warmer dumps into the main river channel itself. You know, Tom, I think that most people don't believe that little things in fishing make that much difference. Like the difference between these 16th ounce jigs we're fishing here and the 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce jigs or even 1/2 ounce that most of these other people are fishing. They just don't believe those little things are that important, and they really are.
Well, I tell you what, Al, these fish are just nudging this bait. I mean, they're just hanging on. Look at that fish.
Nothing like last night. They
just
were
hanging on it.
Get him, Tom. Get him. Oh, I love it. Looks like a good fish.
Just another nice average fish. Nice average fish. This is a better fish, man.
Look at her, look at her, look at that, Tom. Oh. Oh, she's a nice fish, Tom. No, no. Whoa. 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 Get away from that anchor.
You got it?
No, I got it. This is a fat one.
Find another one of those females.
Yeah. Come on, Gil. Yeah.
Nice fish.
Look at that one. It was barely just lip hooked with that little light. It was down its throat, but just tweaked. Just tweaked. Nah, I guess it was pretty solid. Them little light wire hooks really get in there. Tiny jig, folks, and nice sized walleyes. I don't know, that's a female, ain't she?
Yeah.
You know what we're doing here? We're taking these females. Look at how bloated she is. We're going to leave these females spawn, and what we're keeping is the males, the smaller fish. And what you're doing is getting the best natural reproduction going back into the system as possible. I believe you should catch a few fish to keep and eat, but on pre-spawn fish like this, usually the ratio of males to females is darn near 10 to 1. You know, so keep them pound-and-a-half, 2-pound fish, which are better eaters, and put back those walleyes like that, those 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, which are the heart of the fishery. And if you get a trophy fish like an 8, 9, or 10, keep that one, put it on the wall, that's fine. Understand selective harvest. There is a difference between catch and release and selected harvest.
There's one.
We need a net on that sucker. Tom, I think this is our last. Yeah, she's big enough to keep. I'll tell you what, that makes it, man. That makes plenty. That's a good round limit of nice males.
That's a nice bunch of fish, y'all. That's plenty.
The main thing to remember during pre-spawn is you have lots of fish in specific areas. That makes fishing easy. The main areas that attract these fish are sources of current: dams, waterfalls, feeder creeks. The peak bite will be around 40 degrees, and a jig throughout the day is the best presentation you can use. You know, a major river system will hold walleyes all year long, but most of the fish move back to the main lake. They make use of areas like this: new developed weed beds, first major drop-offs, rock reefs like that adjacent to the spawning grounds. Hey, right now, let's join Larry Dahlberg and John Peterson while they're fishing for some post-spawn walleyes on a rock point just like this.
Nice, big, fat, juicy one. That great big lunker. Here they are, John. All right. They're showing up on the flasher, they're showing up on the grass. You got one? Good taker there, Larry. Yep, I got her pooped out here now. All right. Yeah, real respectable female walleye, post-spawn. They just moved off of the spawning areas, and they're moving outside of the rivers that they've spawned in. It's maybe, 3 weeks ago. And it was a tough bite for a while, but now they've set up position on the shallowest food shelves that this lake has to offer. These fish are going to be found now in 3 feet to maybe 22 feet of water off of the very first braid. What we're doing is the most common kind of fishing in walleye fishing, back trolling with a Lindy rig. We've got a little bit of a different variation on the Lindy rig that's been developed. I've got John Peterson here with me, and he'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to get my worm down there and catch another one.
Basically, what this roach rig consists of is a sliding slip sinker. This one is a colorful one. A snubber sinker stop, which stops your sinker from going any closer to your live bait hook, which is also an adjustable piece here. It's made out of rubber, and it slides on your line and allows you to fish the various snell lengths without cutting and retying. Now, another feature or another component is just a plain swivel, which keeps the line twist out of your line, and then a basic 2-foot leader or so from there, and either a floating hook of some sort. This one here is a Phelps floater that I'm using today, or a plain live bait hook.
There are essentially 3 different systems that you can use, live bait systems that you can use when fishing this type of a food shelf, this shallow food shelf. The spinner 3-way rig is preferred when fish are spread out and active. This rig can be fished faster than other live bait systems. In very warm water, the fast speed can also be an effective trigger. You can lengthen or shorten the dropper depending on how far off the bottom the fish are suspended. The live bait rig, like we're fishing now, is good for medium to slow presentations on precise structural areas. It is most often the best presentation for neutral and negative fish. This rig can be used with either a plain hook or a floating jig head when fish are suspended high off the bottom. And as we've explained, the length of the snell can be varied to suit specific situations. The third method is to put the live bait on the back of a lightly dressed jig. This method is the slowest, but allows the most precise control. It's best when you've found a school and can hover right on top of them, and works when fish are positive, neutral, or negative.
Oh, there's a good take. Just stripped it right off my finger, Larry. I mean, right now.
That baby was up a little higher.
It's going to be a better fish here, I bet.
That was up a little shallow.
Right. I drag a little bit loose there. Yes. Heavy fish.
That's the best fish of the day.
Yeah, that's
And up
5-6 pounder there. Right up on that.
Right up on 12.
10, 12 feet, huh?
Top of the hump. If we get this rain and this weather comes in, these boys might come right up on top.
Yes. Yeah. Beauty. Yeah. Hi, how about that, Larry? There's a real beauty.
That's a good looking fish. Look, and it's also wounded back by the tail, back by the dorsal.
Yeah, she is a little bit.
When we talk about the mechanics that are involved in boat control when we're back trolling for walleyes, what we're talking about really is how we present the lure to the fish. When we're bass fishing, for example, with a plastic worm, we're presenting the lure by casting it to a specific spot and controlling it with the rod. In walleye fishing, like we're doing now, the locator is our eyes, and the motor, whether it be a trolling motor or a kicker, is really performing the function of the rod. We're positioning the boat on top of the fish, discovering the fish with the electronics, and positioning the boat with the motor. And the mechanics, the hand-eye coordination that's involved is totally different than in any other kind of fishing that you're likely to do.
Understanding boat control and using the wind as an ally rather than fighting it are 2 important facets of live bait trolling for walleyes. Since we started fishing this point, we boated 3 fish and missed a couple of others at the 15-foot contour. Following the path of the boat, you can see how we simply back troll, watching the depth finder to keep the boat in a particular depth. When we missed a fish and accidentally ran off into deeper water, we simply kick the boat into forward and get back on 15 feet. Then follow the point around on the 15-foot contour. Rather than following the point down any further, we decided to slip drift back over the specific area where we contacted the walleyes. Turning the boat perpendicular to the wind blows us back down along the drop-off. By making slight adjustments forward and backward with the gear shift on the motor, we can follow the exact route we came through the first time. Notice, while slip drifting, all the anglers fish on the same side of the boat, as opposed to back trolling, where each angler fishes off a different side.
Just coming over this tip, just exactly on this tip. Precision is really key in this type of fishing. Yeah, good one. Real good one. Woo-hoo-hoo! A real screamer. You back off, maybe you can pop. Oftentimes, these bigger fish, man, this is a good fish. These bigger fish will be tightly clustered on the primest spot on the bar. Structure on structure. That's why it is so critical to be able to maintain precision control. You can be dragging all over. There's all kinds of small fish up in these flats, and if we were randomly just drifting, that's what we'd catch. But if you want to consistently catch bigger fish, you've got to be precise. Let me hit neutral. I'm off the edge. You go ahead and just keep fishing, John. I'd like to see you pop his mother. These things are really strong. Anybody that thinks walleyes don't fight hasn't caught 5-pound fish. Easy does it, Mr. Wally. Nice looking walleye. Right in the corner. Looking fish. Let me give you a few more details about structure on structure. And when you're fishing a reef like this, we'll show you specifically the kind of things you should look for.
Drop-off areas are always key holding spots for walleyes. Understanding how fish position themselves near drop-offs is critical. Walleyes most often lie on the top or the bottom of the drop, near but not on the actual drop-off, which is a misconception of many anglers. Any irregularities along the length of a bar is another area to find walleyes. Whether on sand, gravel, or rock, the presence of little corners, points, and bends makes it easier for walleyes to corner and feed on bait fish. Another important element, which is far more subtle and not always associated with a depth change, are transitions of bottom composition, such as rock to mud. These are usually identified by feel, dragging your sinker on the bottom, or visually where you see a change of the bottom signaled on the locator. The most valuable tool you have for fine-tuning location by defining small details on structure is a flasher or LCR. Regardless of which electronics you have, learn to use them well, for they are your eyes to the bottom. The more time and concentration you put into learning to interpret your electronics, the better you'll become at quickly zeroing in on productive versus non-productive water.
A keen understanding of how to interpret your electronics is fundamental to consistent success. Some people refer to depth finders as fish finders. Although you can spot suspended fish with your electronics, when properly used, they can give you a great deal of important additional information that will help you define the environment. This is the information which will ultimately lead you to the fish. Now let's do a side-by-side comparison of how signals appear on the two most popular types of electronic depth finders, LCRs and flashers. First, let's talk about initial setup. Do this in open water over clean, hard bottom. Turn the flasher on and increase your gain. First, you'll get a signal that indicates the depth. Increase the gain until you get a second signal. This second signal is the second echo and will be exactly twice the depth. You want just enough power to give you the first indication of the second echo. The LCR sets the power level automatically unless you're in a manual mode. Now, let's check out some different structural elements. We'll start out with rocks. The flasher delivers a sharp, bright line. The second echo gains in strength as well. As you move over large rocks, the signal will bounce up and down, giving you an indication of the rock's size. With the LCR, two things will happen. First, the power needed to read bottom will be lowered. Notice the change on the automatic gain. If the bottom is very irregular, you'll see its shape drawn out on the screen. Now let's move to soft bottom. The flasher signal is less intense. The second echo disappears completely. The LCR has automatically increased its power to make up for the reduction in the bottom's ability to return a signal. Soft bottoms are flat bottoms, and that's what the screen will indicate. Let's look at what happens as we approach an underwater weed line. The instant the weeds enter the cone of the flasher, the signal becomes broken. The signals indicating sparse cabbage weeds will appear with spaces between them. The shallowest signal will indicate the tops of the vegetation. As you move into heavier weeds, like this coontail, the thickness of the signal corresponds to the increasing density of the weeds. The LCR interprets this scenario a little differently. Now, as the weeds come into the cone, there is a slight delay before they register on the screen. This is because an LCR takes 2 to 4 times longer to deliver information as a flasher. The thin weeds appear as thin lines. As the weeds get thicker, they appear as a solid mat. Because of the inherent delay factor, it's more difficult to closely follow a weed line with an LCR than it is with a flasher. Coming over a sharp drop-off creates an interesting signal. Because the bottom intersects the cone at two different depths, the flasher will register a solid signal indicating both the shallowest and the deepest area within the cone. The LCR bottom readout gets a little thicker and prints a sharp drop-off, but again, there is a delay as there was when encountering the weed line. Suspended fish appear on the flasher as independent signals. Bigger fish show up brighter than small fish. A cloud of bait looks like this. The LCR excels in spotting suspended fish because their image remains on the screen for a fairly long period of time. The size of the image is proportionate to the size of the fish if they're located in the same part of the cone. As you can see, there's more to using fish finders than just searching for fish.
There's a good take there, Larry. Boy, he just stripped right off my finger. I'm gonna give him the rod tip here. There he is. Oh, there. All right, there's what I've been looking for. A lot of times you can tell on the hooks that if you got a good fish on. And that one there hung heavy right off the bat. That is a good initial sign of a better sized fish. We've caught an awful lot of 2 to 3 pound fish here the past day or so. This is a little bit better one. Just a nice, gotta wear them out, this light line. You don't want to force them. Just tire them out.
Again, the In-Fisherman formula holds true. Combining an understanding of the fish with the right location and presentation equals success.
Hey, it's important that you understand some fish will make use of these structural areas all year long, but this is a transition period. You have lots of fish setting up on different structural pieces constantly. Why don't you join me along with Gary Roach as we continue to fish the post-spawn dispersal and fish some of these deep water fish right here.
Seeing some fish on this point, Al. Can't believe it, they're down. These batches down to 37 feet. Come on, baby. He's there. He's going. Oh, that feels good.
It looks good.
Oh, steady pull, too.
There she is.
Yeah, my drag's loose.
Don't look big.
There you go.
Good fish. You marked them. Get a dip on her.
They all running nice.
We'll take them. Come on.
Bring them up too fast.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you the guide service.
Thank you.
The guide service treatment. Whoa. Look at that. Another gut hook shot.
Oh, man.
Oh, there she's clear. Big minnows are popping
minnows.
some.
Look at that.
Look at that. Yeah. Ain't too bad. Huh?
Oh, look at the color. And as deep as we're getting them, that thing is still
gonna taste good.
Beautiful.
Hey, we keep getting one here, one there. By the end of the day, we'll have a batch of fish, and that's what this kind of fishing is all about. Straight scrounging. One fish in 15 feet, one fish in 20 foot on a jig and a leech, another fish in 35 feet on a floating rig and a night crawler, another fish on a sand point on a jig in 5 feet of water. Post-spawn walleye fishing. Man, I try to avoid it like a plague whenever I can, but we hit it right on this trip. Myself, Gary Roach, and some friends from Brainerd come up here on a beautiful Winnipeg River system out of Menaki, and we hit the post-spawn calendar period right on the head. And you add bright sun, flat, calm days like this, and fishing is tough. But the bottom line is there's still fish to be had if you know what to do and adapt to the conditions. Quit saying the fish ain't biting. There is some fish to be caught. Bottom line is you gotta fish harder, smarter, for less.
Jigs, rigs, minnows, night crawlers, leeches, anything like that you can use. depths from 10 to 50 feet, change spots, points, sandbars, reefs, rivers, whatever it takes. Versatility is still the most important key.
What you got is little tufts of fish in many different places. Like up in 10 feet of water, one big boulder's got 3 or 4 walleyes on it. In 12 feet, 15 feet of water in another spot, a few developed weeds got 3 or 4 walleyes in it. A little nook and a drop off in 25 feet. A couple boulders scattered in 40 feet. It's bunches of little fish scattered all over the place. Little tufts of fish, 3, 4, 5 fish in each spot. As the water warms in the shallows, these walleyes will move deeper and deeper and deeper, and they'll all draw together, and then you got your summer peak or summer pattern, where patterns are really established and you get big bunches of fish in one spot. That ain't the case now. Cover lots of different water, lots of different baits.
A nice bunch of fish here, Al. They're stacked. They're stacked from 30 to 47 feet now. Really slow. Boy, I wish we had some wind. Oh, there goes one.
You got another one?
Yeah, there he goes, man. He just snapped it.
Bubba, you are on a hot bite. I'm laying my line
finger.
next to yours.
This is beautiful. Look at him go. Look at him. Look at him go. He is hungry. Ooh. Had a big, big minnow on there. Let him chew it good. Stopping.
He's munching.
It's munching. Tasting it. Start to head for deep water now. Let's see if I can swing around a little bit here. Okay, I'm ready. This is the big one. There he goes. Oh,
ooh, you got hooks, fella.
It's not a bad fish. I'm gonna flip around back reel here a little bit.
That one of them ones, ooh, that's a nice fish, Gary.
Yeah, he's a jumper.
He's pounding good. That one of them 5, 6 pounders, man?
I don't know. Oh, I believe this.
I'm telling you.
This little sand
each
plant
spot
or whatever.
gets a little different, you know, each spot we go to.
We're on this, he just doesn't want to come up, Al.
That's a good one, boy.
This is a good fish. This might be a netter for you, hey? This is not
I'm taking your word for it. It's looking to me like she's a big old
taking
hunker.
it up a little easy, too, because I don't want to...
You got that one out of 47?
Yeah, 47. Oh, there she is.
Nice
Look at
fish. Nice fish.
her. Look at her.
Nice fish. 5 pounds?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, she's got a big old wart on it.
Yeah.
Nice fish.
Woo! There, huh? Oh. Nice and easy. Little growth.
All right. Hey, one of the keys to post-spawn walleye fishing is to comb or cover a lot of water fast. Now look, you actually find the fish on your locator before you fish them. Whether you're using a liquid crystal display or a flasher, you run different structural pieces and look for fish on the units. It's typical at this time of the year for walleyes to suspend like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet off of the bottom. That means you can spot them on your locator. That means once you spot them, you can fish them. Word of advice, if you don't see them, don't fish them. Cover different structural elements. Look along sand or rock drop-offs, sunken islands, shallow and deep ones, points, normal structural elements, new developed weed areas. You're actually looking for the fish before you fish them. I can't overemphasize how important that is during this calendar period. Oh man. Oh.
What do you got, Al?
It's gonna take a net. Gonna take a net. It ain't a big fish, but it's, you know, oh yeah. Hey, netter. Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice fish. Oh, yeah.
This is a heck of a school.
That is a dandy.
Hey.
Foxy?
Woo, little baby foxy. As soon as I put that little foxy on, put the rig away in here, I got bit.
Oh, they're hopping.
Little foxy, man, they're on there, huh?
That's a dandy.
Another good one, man. Boy, there's a load of them in there. It's funny how each time, you can, look at that, folks. We're stacking them up good. Gonna be some good chow tonight.
I love it.
Oh, man, there's a load of them down there. It's funny, at this time of the year, you can pull in one spot like this, and we hammer them on jigs. The other spot, you catch them on floating rigs and a leech. Another spot, a live bait rig and a minnow. The key is keep an open mind, stay versatile, and don't assume anything. Each spot is different. One key thing to remember, you got 2 guys in a boat like us. When you come to a new spot, you hit a new spot for the first time, One guy fish a jig and a minnow, one guy fish a rig and a leech. Mix it a little bit until you see what's happening. Each spot is going to be different. As soon as you see what that spot is popping fish on, go to it.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
a big fish.
It's a pig.
Big fish.
Well, it's hard to say.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
fish.
yeah, he's wallering.
Males.
He's a
Big
waller.
males. That's a good fish, man. Males. Look at her. Big sow. Oh,
look at
big
that.
sow.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Woo!
I love it. She's hooked on that little skin right inside. There we go. Nice.
Okay, you ready? There she comes.
Nice, huh?
Got her, Rocher.
Oh, look at that, huh? What a beautiful fish, Isle. Even if you got to scrounge like we've been scrounging, changing lures, changing depths, changing spots, and even the most severe walleye fishing condition during the post-spawn time, you can end up with fish just like this. It's great. I love it.
Hey, there's certain times of the year that you have to scrounge fish, but it does pay off, and this was a classic example. Right now, let's take a look at one of the most productive areas of a lake for large numbers of fish, and that's flats. Basically, flats fall into two categories: shallow water flats or deep water flats. A shallow water flat would be something like this, where it would be a slow taper from 5 down to maybe 15 feet before it drops off again. A deep water flat could range from 20 to 30 feet for a long distance before it falls into 50 feet of water. Point being, there's shallow flats, there's deep water flats, and they both hold walleyes. Right now, let's join Larry Dahlberg and In-Fisherman Tournament Director Mark Doran, who are fishing deep water flats during a post-frontal condition.
We've discussed many of the ways in which walleyes relate to objects and edges, whether they be boulders, drop-offs, sunken humps, weeds, or other forms of specific cover. But quite often, walleyes relate to less specific structural elements. One of these circumstances is when they roam large flats. This is when the consistently successful angler chooses an approach that allows him to cover ground.
Ooh, there's a heavy one, Mark. Ooh, that's a heavy one. Looks like. Yeah, right out on the tippity tip of the point. And whoo! You know, even though the smaller fish, that's a heavy fish. The smaller fish have started to move up after this front. The big fish are still right on the prime lies on the tips of the points on the inside turns.
Where'd we get that net?
Nice shot, a horse. He's a good one. You get 6 pound, you get that thing flopping around and slashing and tangling. Ooh. That's a nice walleye. Yeah. Well, that's a really nice walleye in anybody's book. It's not a giant, but it's a real dandy walleye. And it's typical of the kind of fish that you're going to find out on deep flats in large bodies of water. They don't get nearly as much pressure, and there's lots and lots of room out here for them to roam around and grow and to hide from anglers. And we're going to put her back because we've got more than we need. Whoa. Mark, when do the fish first start to show up on these flats, and what is it that draws them out here after the early spring bite in the shallow water?
Water temperature has a lot to do with it, and not only water temperature, but the insects when that first hatch comes off. The fish flies or lake flies normally hatch right in late May sometime, and I'm sure its water temperature probably has a lot to do with triggering that hatch.
We used to think that these big mayflies, specifically Hexagenia, hatched on the deep Main Lake flats and drew the walleyes out to them. But we've discovered it's unlikely that the Hexagenia live out here because it's 25 foot deep and there's no vegetation for them to eat. A better theory is that the Hexagenia actually live around the shoreline flats and weed beds. When they hatch, it causes a forage explosion which saturates the shallow water walleyes, making them very tough to catch. Walleyes out on the deeper Main Lake structure relate to a different food chain, which is based upon tiny insects and the minnows that feed on them. Since there is no forage explosion here, these deeper water fish are in a more positive feeding mode. When the lake flies hatch, you can up your odds by fishing for fish that haven't been affected by the shallow water forage explosion.
What we're doing is traveling over the edge of this great big giant flat out here in the middle of the lake,
This flat's about 22 feet deep on top and it rolls off to 35 on the sides. What we're doing is moving along the edge of it quickly with this rig here. We've got a three-way rig with two hooks, a spinner, and a night crawler. You can move maybe twice as fast with this as you could with a Lindy rig system, and you could move much, much faster with this than you could with a jig fishing vertically.
The components of the basic spinner rig are quite simple, consisting of a single hook, a series of beads, and a clevis with a spinner blade. There are three basic blade styles to choose from: willow leaf, Indiana, and Colorado. The sizes most used by walleye fishermen are size 1, 2, and 3. The willow leaf is the thinnest blade, has the least water resistance, spins at the fastest speed, and tracks in the straightest line. The spinner of the willow leaf runs at approximately 20 degrees from the shaft. The Indiana blade is the most popular all-around blade. It spins at a medium speed, has more resistance than the willow leaf, which causes it to ride higher and impart more action on the bait. The Indiana rotates at approximately 30 degrees. The Colorado blade spins the slowest, has the most water resistance, rides the highest, and gives the bait the most action. The Colorado has approximately a 45-degree angle of rotation. Varying the size, style, and color of your spinners will definitely put more walleyes in the boat. With this rig, it's best to use a medium-action bait casting rod with 10 to 17-pound line. The rig consists of a three-way swivel with 4 to 6 foot leader to the spinner. Use a 2-foot dropper line from the three-way to the bell sinker. To avoid line tangles while trolling multiple line, have each fisherman use a different weight sinker ranging from 3/4 ounce up to 4 ounces, with the leading person using the heaviest sinker and the trailing person using the lightest. The flat market area you're fishing tops out at 25 feet and is surrounded by 35 feet of water, although some flats may have only a 2-foot rise in contour, distinguishing them from their surroundings. Deep flats like these seem to have the most active fish during the middle of the day and are best during fairly calm conditions. Shallow flats, which we'll talk about later, are a totally different story. Active walleyes roam over these large areas in pursuit of forage. This is why the fast troll spinner technique is so effective. It allows the angler to cover water quickly. Actually, fishing the top of a large flat is like mowing your lawn. The negative or neutral fish relating to flats usually hold on or at the base of the drop-off. This is often the case during post-frontal conditions, as Mark and Larry are faced with today. Under conditions like these, the fish will usually bunch up on points and inside corners along the edge of the flat.
This one's coming up. How big is yours, Mark? This thing hit.
This one's big.
It feels like a better one, too. I don't know how big it is, but it's hitting. Yeah.
Oh, he's coming. But boy, did he want to go the other direction. Oh, look at him shake. Yeah, there's just a bunch of them this size out there. There you see him down there?
I'll just pick them up. Huh? Bad, we may have to measure him. Out of Mille Lacs Lake, you can only keep one over 20 inches.
Whoa! Whoa! Boy, a chunky fish.
Oh, he's just perfect. He's right in that 19.5-inch slot. This is one of your tournament fish, Mark.
Really a nice chunky fish. You know, got lots of fat on him.
So you see, an understanding of forage and habitat combined with an effective presentation means more walleyes in the boat.
Hey, you know, the principles for approaching a shallow water flat and a deep water flat are really pretty much the same. The only real difference is local weather and water conditions. Fish that are making use of shallow water flats are programmed to be the most active during low light. That's early, late, wind, or overcast. Tournament fishing walleye pro Jerry Anderson hates catching walleyes deeper than 10 feet of water if the conditions are right for him to stay shallow. Let's take a look at how he approaches shallow water flats and walleyes. This is called a Missouri bottom bouncer system or technique. No question about it, a night crawler on a spinner is the best lure presentation you could put behind it, especially in the summer months. You play with colors on those spinners. It's a key triggering effect that can make a difference. Chartreuses, oranges, lime greens. Jerry's letting out the line until he feels the bottom. He wants that wire prong coming off the lead actually to touch bottom. That's the sensitive part, and he can feel it right back into the rod handle. Here he's bouncing it, lifting it and feeding it back, and you're just touching bottom, touching bottom, touching bottom. You always want to keep contact with the bottom. Okay, you got to strike. You don't set instantly. Did you see how he fell back on that rod? You give that walleye a second to inhale that entire nightcrawler harness down his mouth. A big mistake a lot of fishermen make in this fishing technique is to set the hook right away and they're coming back with a bit-off piece of crawler. When that walleye inhales that harness, you want to take that second or so pause, lay back on that rod before you set the hook. In most cases, you're fishing fairly heavy line, 14 or 17 pound test. That's right, 14 or 17 pound test. You're moving fast, you're fishing hard, aggressive, biting fish. Line really doesn't make a difference under these fishing situations. The type of spot the bottom bumpers work most effectively would appear like this on a hydro map. A cutaway of the lake would reveal a large flat with scattered rock humps. Most walleye live bait techniques are just too slow to be effective in this situation. Jerry's bottom bumper technique quickly locates active fish on these large, expansive flats. As a whole, walleyes using shallow flats feed better during the low light conditions. That's early, late, all night long, during wind situations or overcast days. In some cases, you may be better off casting from an anchor position or drifting rather than trolling. It's not uncommon to catch walleyes in 2 to 4 feet of water. A variety of different baits or rigs can be used to catch walleyes off of flats. Here are some of the most common systems. A shallow running minnow bait with split shots in front of it, flatline troll down to about 8 feet of water. If you got to fish from 8 to 15 foot of water, you're better off going to a lipped diving bait. A couple other good options are bottom walkers with either shallow minnow lures tied to them or nightcrawler harnesses like Jerry Anderson is using here. This is definitely what you would term high percentage fishing. You're covering a lot of water quick, looking for biters. Incidentally, feel is not a big deal in this kind of fishing technique. Oh yeah, you'll feel a little bunk, but you don't have to be so careful like you do with a live bait rig or a jig system. You're moving quick enough where the main thing to remember is pause, fall back on that line, and then get hooks. Set it hard. Jerry learned high percentage fishing as a guide. It's the key to putting fish in a boat consistently. Always looking for the most active fish. When fish are scattered on flats, this method is absolutely the way to go. Hey, you know, the main link between you and the fish is naturally your monofilament fishing line. Now, there's no one line that'll fit all of your walleye fishing needs. It isn't made. That's why you use different lines for different situations. When I'm fishing for walleyes with live bait rigs, where I just got the hook and a minnow on it, or let's say a floating rig and a nightcrawler or a leech on a slip bobber where I'm presenting live bait, I like to use Berkley Trilene XL. That's extra limp. It's a soft, limp line. The bait is presented as natural as possible. It's low diameter. Low diameter means more strikes. I also love the Fish XL when I'm in cold water situations. It lays on a real good. Now there's some situations where we got to make a change. We could have walleyes in wood, or walleyes in weeds, or we're crankbaiting walleyes over rock structures where the line is just rubbing against a rock all the time, and you change action. You need a stiffer rod, something you can get hooks with. What I do then is change to Berkley Trilene XT. That's extra tough. Makes a big, big difference. The line is abrasion resistant. It's made and designed to fish that live in cover. Hey, don't forget color of line. Color makes a difference too. I fish trilene green when I'm fishing live bait, very low visibility. It's hard for the fish to see, you get a lot more strikes. When I'm fishing in heavy cover or jig fishing, I like to go to XT, and then in that situation, I go to the clear or the high vis color like this where I could see the jig, where you're doing a lot of line watching and you're just looking for that tick where you can see the line free falling on a jig. So pay attention to line color, change your line often. Hey, remember, the main link between you and a walleye is your line. I'll tell you what, this is a good looking spot, but it's going to be a few minutes before we get to it. In tape 1 of Advanced Walleye Systems, we talked about the importance of understanding forage, how the predator-prey relationship causes walleyes to be active on certain structural pieces and not so active on others. We talked about the dispersal period, this transition period that takes lots of walleyes and scatters them through many parts of the lake, and they're deep, shallow, and somewhere in between. We talked about how walleyes relate to certain key structural elements like underwater points, new developed weeds, rocks, sand, shallow flats, deep water flats. In tape number 2 of Advanced Walleye Systems, we're going to continue to explore the options walleyes have in natural lakes.
Now move to tape 2 for a continuation of Advanced Walleye Systems.